exponential growth. It's crazy.
I don't know, learn AI.
5-6 years left of programming, so we're good there.
Well, let's hope not.
The internet does not work. This is a problem.
If you don't have that base skill set, I mean, you can only get so far with it.
Good deal. Okay, so this is the DevSync. We made it to episode 3. It's taken a couple tries, but we've made it to episode 3. We're short one will, but we'll be all right.
We'll be fine.
We will be. So this time, actually, I was trying to remember what we talked about last time. It's been a little while. So last time I think, oh, that's right. We talked about Neuralink, and we were gonna get into some development stuff that we talked about last time, as far as I think standardizing frameworks and that sort of thing. There were some hot opinions on that, but we'll save that for Will because he seemed to get some input for that. So
we do that one without Will, man.
Yeah,
missing out. A hot take on a hot take.
We'll have a lot of material to work with there for sure.
Yeah.
So this one we're gonna go with. I mean, I guess you and I are a little bit more. I mean, you're more senior than I am. I'm more so senior than Will. So I'm 10 plus years experience. You're more than that. So I don't know. I figured it was a good chance to kind of talk about that, but also if you were to jump into development, trying to get started in development, that's a question I get actually quite a bit from other people. Like, I want to get into development. What do I even do? What do I, where do I go? What do I study? That kind of thing. So I've had this discussion a couple times, but I figure we'll kind of start there. And if you were going to get into development, or what would you recommend to somebody if they were trying to get into development, or would you even recommend it?
Like people today, yeah. I don't know, learn AI.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's funny. We were just chatting about this a little bit today, actually, about the kids coming out of school these days. They're exposed to so much of this like advanced tooling and all of these concepts that frankly we didn't have when we were in college. But then I did start thinking about it a minute, and it was like when I came out of college, I was in that same position with the folks that I started working with in my first job, right? So we had tools like at the time Visual Studio for the IDE, right? You had this like centralized development environment that had this integrated debugger and all these like super fancy tools as compared to the guys and gals I was working with that were they basically had been doing it for 20 years before then, and they all came from a COBOL background, right? So terminals and stuff. So
sure.
It took me a little while to kind of like appreciate that fact, but now being on the other end of that, I certainly see that and certainly take that appreciation. But like getting into it, I mean, back when I was a kid, it was you were like the computer guy, right? You were the computer kid in your group of friends, so it was like you were destined to go into computer science and get that degree, and then go get a job writing code, right? That was the path.
Yep. Yeah, I was kind of similar to that too, where I think I had built a computer before I got to high school. So it's like I was the computer guy. So, it was just only a matter of time. So yeah, it's just the natural progression.
Yeah. I mean, these days, goodness, like it just depends on what you want to do, right? Like developer is so broad. These days it could mean 1,000 different things probably. Like, do you want to be a game developer? Do you want to be a data developer? Do you want to be an AI developer? Do you want to be a UI, UX? Do you want to do infrastructure, hardware, firmware? Like there's so many more options, I think now, like formal options, right?
Right. Like, like classified categories and areas of focus and stuff. So, yeah.
So that's always the big thing. So like in interviewing, right. And you were a manager. So, I mean, you know this just as well, if not better, like when you're interviewing, right. One of the things you're trying to figure out is what does that person like want to do? Right. Not every job, especially when you come out of school and you're a, entry level associate, you're applying for that first job. Like you're probably not building the business changing ML model day one, right? Like, that's just not going to be your first task. I'm sorry, but
right, yeah, gotta start somewhere. Unfortunately, right. Somewhere a little bit smaller. Yeah.
Not to say that if you don't have if you have a specialization or something, maybe that is exactly what you come in and do. To be honest,
that's true.
But I think for the most part, right, it's like entry level stuff is exactly what it is. It's entry level, work. You're coming in, you're learning the ropes. You're kind of getting your feet wet with like the enterprise culture. If you're at a big enterprise, right? If maybe a smaller startup or something, there's obviously a different mentality there as well. But I think first and foremost, it's just got to be, what do you want to do?
Yeah, yeah, for
Just
sure.
gotta be what you want to do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's funny because like I remember getting that advice. I guess when I was in college, that I think I was in a gaming. I was in a gaming class through at like the end of my technology career or technology study, and somebody came in. He's like, yeah, he's like, he had already gotten a job somewhere that he's actually working on games. But he's like, you really want to focus on something specific. If you can, I want to work on tooling or something, like, or like you mentioned, like UI or whatever, just really specifics, areas of focus, so that it just makes it that much easier to be like, oh, that's the thing I do, as opposed to, I know a language, and then, you have to figure out, okay, well, what can you do with that language, and what can we put you on, and that kind of thing. So, um, yeah, so that really hasn't changed. I don't think too much. It's only gotten maybe, like I said, even maybe, I don't know, I guess worse, that there's so many other areas to focus on now. It's gotten so much more specific where, you can only do that one thing. Um, but I do think nowadays, I don't know, there's, I don't know, it's just gotten, everything is so much more easily available that you can just do, before you even get to college. I mean, there's kids, don't even need to go to college. They've been doing this stuff since they were whatever, 10, that, they're so much further ahead, and, can just go ahead and like build that background of like, oh yeah, I've been learning how to code my own model for a while now, and like I've been using all this, whatever, been learning Python, since I was 9, and
Yeah,
crazy stuff like that. So yeah, there's definitely a more competitive element to it that way as well. So
totally. I'm telling you, man. Present company excluded, of course, but like I would say probably one of the best engineers I ever worked with. I don't believe he has a single college credit. Just is that good.
yeah, I believe
Um,
it.
he just he I think as soon as he graduated high school, he went and got himself like an entry level job at a startup, built up his Unix and Linux chops, and then you know got a job over at the where I worked before here,
Okay.
um, basically administrating the entire Linux infrastructure. Right,
Okay.
it was a very specialized thing, and I mean, back then it wasn't that readily available. It was very niche, especially in our market here, where there was a lot of like Microsoft and .NET.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
so basically, yeah. But I mean, you could watch this guy, and this is before Terraform and all of these, these huge suites of things. I mean, he would have these deployment scripts that you'd watch him stand up this infrastructure. You're talking like enterprise grade, um, you know, publicly available infrastructure in no time. It's amazing to watch.
Okay.
Um, I wish I could do that stuff. Like,
I know.
now we have all these tooling um, available to us. I think the one thing you reminded me though is back in the day, make it sound like it's so long ago, but you went to college and you got this engineering degree or computer science degree, um, and unless you did something in a very specialized track, you generally came out with like a pretty general, um, you know, understanding and just skill set in the area of development.
Sure. Sure.
And then
Yeah.
you kind of picked where you went. I mean, a lot of times you just kind of like fell into whatever your first job was, and you
Yeah.
built your skill set from there. Um, as opposed to now, where I think there is a lot more desire for like that specific skill set. Like
Right.
if you're going to ask somebody to come be a DevOps engineer, maybe they don't need to know, the most complicated data structures um, or any of those kinds of things, right? It's more just can you implement the tooling at hand, in the way that your employer needs or whatever the solution requires, that kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, it is interesting because I mean, and I'm sure college is probably still, I'm sure it hasn't changed too much. But it was kind of like that where it was kind of broad. I mean, I remember having, I mean, and I don't know, I went kind of, I mean, I think you were IT as well, right? Or CIT? Uh,
Yeah,
nice, yeah. Um, I don't know. I remember having a rough time where it wasn't really computer science, but I knew I wanted to go kind of the software route, and then then it all ended up being kind of a challenge because a lot of places were like, "Oh, you're technology, so you must be networking." And
Yeah.
no, I'm not. I've taken a couple networking classes, but I'm not focused on networking. I was more looking at the software side of things. So like I had a lot of trouble with that just with my major. But yeah, just kind of I guess like you were kind of saying as far as I don't know the specifics and computer science has like it's very very whatever mathematical, very algorithmic. Uh, CIT was much more kind of you learned the systems, you learned had a random class on networking, you
Yeah.
know, oh man, virtual virtual machines up and that kind of thing, and database structure, project management. Like it was much more like broad
Yeah.
than like the computer science, which is just like tons of algorithms, tons of optimization, and all that.
And that's specifically why I switched though, because I wanted to have a bit more of a what's the right word here? Just like a broad spectrum of skills coming out, right? Just or experience in those different areas. So project
Sure.
management, that's huge. Served me well time and time over again, being able to, in certain cases, run a small project by myself if I have to, right?
Sure. Yeah.
um, or basically all those speech classes and the way all the presentation experience or whatever, being able to go and present to VP, SVP level folks. Whereas I wasn't getting a ton of that in computer science. Um, the coursework, I mean, to your point, the development side I think was a lot more. Um, it was a lot more challenging
Mhm.
and by proxy interesting. I'll be honest. Um,
Yeah.
I mean,
Fair
yeah, I
enough.
mean, like, at the end of the day, setting up a database, pretty fun for the first few times, but after that, it's just kind of, if you don't have like a true practical reason, it's
Mhm.
just like a lab, a
Right.
little bit repetitive for my taste.
For sure. When you're like going through a worksheet of like, oh, I had to, query the whatever. I just remember, really specific, like, oh, we need to know, here's your database, here's all the companies. We need to know how many people in this city got paid this much. And, just coming up with like really specific queries and stuff. It's like, all right. Like, I mean, it's useful, I guess, but at the same time, it was good practice, I guess, because I did actually end up putting it, to use once I finally got to a real job.
Yeah,
But yeah,
same,
but
right?
the
Same. I
setup
mean,
is not necessary.
I mean, but like having that broad experience or whatever, the when you get asked a question of like, hey, are you networking? You don't have to say no. You can just basically be like, that can be, um,
Pretty
which
much.
isn't always
Yeah.
bad, right? Especially if you're going to a startup where maybe you're one of a handful of people. You're going to be wearing a lot of hats. Um, it can't be expected you're just going to be heads down coder guy all day. Because some of the especially early days, right? You might be heads down coding. You're also the one rebooting the machines, plugging in wires, setting up racks. I mean, I guess nowadays it's more like setting up the AWS account, but
Right.
um,
Exactly. Doing the cloud infrastructure. But yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
But you get my point, right? Like, so I mean, it all comes back to simply like for somebody who's looking to get into, um, into the field. It's like just know what you want to do. Um,
Yeah, which can be tough as well. I mean, I guess, and that's one of those of I don't know. I mean, try different things and whatever if it sounds interesting, go try it and try to I don't know, figure out what you do like, whether it is uh, I don't even know. Yeah, like more environment stuff, kind of like you were talking about, which then would be DevOps and that kind of thing, or more of the AI stuff, which is really kind of more scripting, I guess, than it is actually like coding now. Um, or front end development if you like building websites and that kind of thing, or yeah, yeah, that's true. There's a lot, and if you don't really know what you like, it's good to go just try everything until you figure out what you do like.
it's true. I mean, you look at like I'm trying to think back now of kind of like my friends and folks in my classes. Um, some folks went into hardware development. Now,
Yeah.
I took most of the classes that were available, both on the computer science and computer engineering, before I switched back over.
Sure.
I switched over to CIT, and I don't recall much in the way of like that level of hardware programming. There was a couple things we did where it was like kind of digital logic design, where you're programming small chips and things, but not to the point of say you're going off to I don't know build the car radio system or something.
Right.
Um, I knew some folks that did that right after college, right? But that wasn't their first project. They got into those companies on the ground level and probably did, I can't even tell you at this point, but probably did some fairly small tasks, right?
Yeah.
But then they like worked their way up and got bigger projects. And that translates into, now you're getting more experience in very specific fields. And then you can parlay that into whatever your next job opportunity is going to be.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas I went a different route. Mine was all .NET.
Right.
There was a lot of front end stuff that came with it, right? A lot of like ASP.NET, building
Mm-hmm.
web apps. We built
Yep.
some actual Windows apps as well, but primarily it was web apps. But that served great for moving into future roles, right? Like, you got that experience of, what does it take to build a server side web app? What does it take to build it securely, scale, all of that kind of stuff?
For sure.
I didn't know any of that when I first started.
Oh, I know.
Control Shift B and Control F5. That was about all I had.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's one thing I still remember. I mean, I remember we actually did, because I think I had a few classes with .NET as well, and it was kind of back and forth. Where I think I actually had Java. I had a few classes with Java, a few classes with .NET, and so I was kind of 50-50, and it kind of just ended up working out that I ended up going to a Java shop for my first job. But I do remember working on. I survived, but I still remember, like, I mean, at that point we had worked on a couple projects. I think I had done an ASP, like web project at one point where it was actually kind of cool. They brought in somebody local, I think from West Lafayette, that needed, a website for their business. So they let us build person. So we had like an actual client as part of our project. I don't think it was great. I don't even remember what happened. So I feel kind of bad for whoever. Like, I think we built a website for this person, but I don't think we helped them like host it or anything. It was just kind of like hey, like, we made you a website, and that was it. So, but anyway, it was a good experience looking back on it. But yeah, probably not the best experience for them. But yeah, anyway, but like, so, and that was like a decent sized project. But then getting into a real job and like sitting down and like, oh, here's a million plus line code base. We need you to like, I just want you to whatever, add a button here or whatever, and seeing like JSP pages with HTML and CSS and JavaScript, and it's like all together. And it's like, wow, I've never seen all of this in one place. This is like, I've been doing this for a while. This is still totally foreign. So that was a bit of a shock. So probably not so much. Probably doesn't happen as much these days, but I don't know. I just remember that being like feeling pretty unprepared. Like, at least I had a foundation, but it was just like, oh, there's a whole nother level to go after that.
I'll be honest. I think it does happen still. I think it happens in a different way. Because, I mean, you think million line code base, somebody says add a button. First thing I think of is, oh dear Lord, how many layers of abstraction do I have to go through to add that button? Right.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
what's the
dropping the markup on the page? That's fine. How do I get that action all the way back to whatever it's supposed to do, right? Like, there's a handler, and then a controller, and then an activator, and then a blah, blah. But I think that kind of leads back to, the original question you asked, like, how do people get into this thing? I mean, the biggest thing that I personally look for, and I know you know this because we talked about this during interviewing, is I'm trying to basically just gauge the engineering mindset, right? Like, most of what we do day to day can be taught.
Right.
In some cases, a lot of it can be taught very easily. What's very hard to teach, though, is that mindset of true analytics, not analytics,
like problem solving.
Like being able to look at a problem, break it down, and like truly design like a solution to it. And it could be something small, like how do you fix a bug? Doesn't change the mindset, right? Like, you're still going through it. You're trying to break down the problem. You're trying to break down how best to solve it. And that to me, I think, is probably the biggest thing that I took away from college, was just that, being immersed in the classroom, especially the labs, really help drive that home. But
for sure, yeah, absolutely. Well, and yeah, that kind of, I don't know, it's sparking interview questions, and I don't know, I do think like that became one of my go-to interview questions, is always just let's just talk about either the most difficult thing you've done recently, and just to kind of hear how difficult it was, and then if you could break it down, and then what was the most challenging part, just to kind of get a feel for like, okay, what was the scope of the project, like what were you working on, what
Hmm.
particular thing was actually really challenging, and then be able to understand the complexity of like what that problem was, and then how did you figure out how to solve it. So that's usually like kind of a good gauge to kind of tell, okay, like what have they actually worked on, and how much are they going to get overwhelmed if you throw too much at them if they haven't had anything that's like that broad in scope. um so that was always like a good indicator. And then I don't know, I mean, I think we had a handful of interviews together, and then I know
Hmm.
Will and I actually were on our interview team quite a bit, so he had a pretty good question, I think, as far as like just how long do you how long do you typically work on something until, or how long do you typically stay stuck on something until you ask for help?
Hmm.
Which I think is always a good question, because that can definitely lead to some problems if you're gonna just not speak up, like, oh, I'm just gonna figure it out and take my time, and yeah, can be bad. So that was always a good like abstract question.
Well, the answer to that question is very near and dear to my heart, as I'm sure you remember me saying many times, like, please don't wait to come ask a question. Just ask the question. Like, take your time. Like, try to figure it out. But I do think people get stuck, and you know, the software engineer, I think, practice kind of breeds a little bit of that hero mentality where it's like, I'm going to solve this problem.
Right.
Um, Guilty of it,
For
100%.
sure. Well,
Um,
well, there's the I don't know, the carrot on stick almost, where it's like, it's like, end of the day, like, I got it. By the end of the day, I've got this, and then it's like, oh, I'm so close. And then you go to the next day, it's like, oh, I'm so close, like I'm so close, and then then it's suddenly it's been 3 or 4 days, and it's like, oh man, like I was so close, but and it's always that fallacy of like so close, so close. So sometimes you don't know, you're actually not that close to the end.
so my rule of thumb generally is I won't take a single aspect of a problem overnight. Right.
Okay.
So if where I thought you were going to go with that was like, basically you're stuck on a problem, and then all of a sudden it's like 10 o'clock at night, and you're still sitting in the office,
Oh, gotcha.
um, and your wife's calling asking, "Hey, are we eating dinner tonight?" Like, oh yeah, that's a thing.
So probably
Uh,
should, yeah, maybe we'll take a break. Yeah.
Well, like, so you may have like a big problem, right? It's like say you have a story, it's like a 2 week thing. It's going to take the full sprint. That's fine. But like a single aspect of that, like if I'm stuck, if I get to the end of the business day, or end of, let's call it the Pacific time business day, and I'm still kind of like not sure where to go, um, that's just getting shelved, and we're talking about it first thing in the morning. Right?
Yeah.
Something is amiss here.
Right.
Either my understanding is wrong, or I mean, in some cases, we found ourselves in a situation where we just had something we couldn't do,
For sure. Yeah.
right?
Or there's,
Or just didn't make enough sense to do, right? Like,
yeah,
people thought this is what it was supposed to be, and sometimes it doesn't work out that way. Um,
that's for sure.
I
Yeah.
think it's when people get stuck and don't ask at all
Right.
is kind of where, like, man, that's rough. Because I mean, for a couple reasons. One, there's no reason to not ask, right?
Yeah.
There's like literally no shame in basically being like, hey, does anybody have an idea of what to do here?
Right.
Um,
Well, and
it
like,
just, yeah, and the
well,
stress that comes with it, man. Like, oh my gosh, um, unnecessary.
yeah, for sure. Well, and I mean, and I may have been, pretty lucky, but I mean, I feel like almost every position I was at, I mean, at 4 different companies, everybody I worked with, I really didn't run into situations where I felt like I couldn't ask, or whenever I would ask, they would be more than happy to help. It was just
Yep.
always, self-inflicted, that it's like, oh, I don't want to ask a dumb question, or I'm going to figure it out. I don't need to ask anybody. And uh, but every time you did ask, they're happy to be like, oh yeah, just do this, or happy to, yeah. I mean, obviously, there's always also like the fine line where if it becomes everything is a question, it's like, okay, well, that's a problem. So there's always that, but yeah, but generally, like if you're going to be stuck, like most people are going to be happy to help you.
Yeah, if you get the same question twice, that you know, it's not necessarily indicative of a problem per se. People forget things.
Sure.
I think to your point though, I mean, if you're having to answer like rudimentary questions day in day out from the same person, that's also not great, because I mean it's showing a clear initiative, a sheer lack of initiative, in just in the premise of learning.
Right.
Um, especially if we take on something new language, new tech stack, whatever it might be. Like, yes, none of us are experts at the moment, right? Like that
Right.
is, it's objective fact. But you get 6 months down the line. I mean, there's an expectation. Your more senior people should be pretty expert level in those
Right.
types of things, right?
Yeah.
Junior folks probably still just trying to ramp up because they're still learning just like all of that basic knowledge as well. But it is also pretty obvious too when like kind of who your more engineering mindset focused folks are, becomes very obvious. And the key, of course, to bring this all back is to try to figure that out in an interview. Sometimes, which is only 30 minutes to an hour, it's super, super difficult.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm glad managers get to ask those questions about tell me the time you had a difficulty, blah, blah, blah. And I
Right.
get to ask questions like, here's this random thing I just thought of. Tell me how you would solve this.
How do you build this thing? Yeah.
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 Um, uh, it's interesting. And honestly, since I've started doing that more with the open-ended questions,
Mhm.
I feel like we're just getting a lot stronger candidates, to be honest, when all is said and done. I mean, you're able to really see like it's you're not kind of depending so much on like, oh, I guess maybe they could be okay. It's pretty obvious from the technical assessment. It's like yes, no,
Gotcha. Yeah.
which is awesome.
That helps a lot.
Um,
Yeah. That makes a lot easier. I mean, I don't know. For the most part, we were pretty good. Usually, pretty quickly, we could be like, yeah, they're good, or like,
yeah.
not getting a good vibe from this person. So, um,
The nice part though is it gets away from people who um, have mastered the interview questions, right?
right. Yeah.
You have like perfect answer for the what's the most difficult thing you've ever had to work on. Like some people just you can tell it's scripted and that's fine, right?
Right.
You certainly should prepare and all of that. But when you get asked a random question, and I mean like sometimes I come up with some random stuff, and just have people start walking through it. It's pretty obvious who who your top performers are going to be pretty quickly.
Oh yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, it's been good. And then the other thing, just I think to take it all the way back to the beginning, knowing what you want to do would help you prepare for that interview anyway. You're
For
not going to
sure.
prepare for. You're not going to memorize a bunch of ML related questions if you're going in uh, uh, to be like a DevSecOps engineer.
Right. Yeah.
You're probably not. Um,
Even though I think it would be very valuable now, but yeah,
it
it's
could very
not
well be. I
quite that
mean,
integrated.
but I mean, I mean, like a very
Yeah.
specialized role, like where it's just like the questions probably just don't come up. I would imagine.
Right.
Um,
Well, and it kind of like I guess kind of related to interviewing as well. That's usually kind of what I was normally fishing for because I would try to ask questions so I could get them to talk for a little bit, just to I guess in a sense hear the lingo to make sure that they're talking about things and not just in generalities, but like starting to use specifics.
right.
It's like, oh, they've actually done that thing, and they can talk about like a particular architecture or a pattern or whatever, as opposed to just like, yeah, I built this thing, and I built this component, and it calculated some numbers, and you click on this button and it's in an email. It's like, okay, cool, like that you're not giving me much to work with here. So but I
Yeah.
mean, but kind of like to your point, like that stuff will just kind of naturally evolve if you've done it. Like you've been doing a lot of this stuff, like you start to learn the terminology that's behind it, and then
Right.
when you talk about it, you can just tell it's like, oh yeah, this person has done this before because they actually understand
And not to mention, so listening for the lingo. I think the other way to say that is prove you're not lying.
it. Yeah,
I,
right.
I
Yeah,
mean, it's unfortunate to say, but I mean, it happens so much more than I ever thought it would. It just seems crazy because somebody says I built a component that has a button that sends an email, right? Okay, that's cool. Now let's dive into that. Which part of that did you actually build, right?
yeah,
Did you build the button? Did you just throw some HTML in a component? Did you copy paste a Stack Overflow? Like none of these are wrong answers. Like don't get
right.
me wrong. Um, it just we're trying to understand. Like, do you truly understand what you built? Right.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, like how
I'm not
I
saying you
kind of
had to craft the MTA on the back end that actually sends the email. Like, not asking that. If you did, that's awesome. We can talk through it.
for
Um,
sure.
but like overhyping your portion of a project also doesn't do any good because if we're going to ask you, And even if you somehow get through that thing, when you start, like it's going to become very obvious.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
which is that's the part that gets me about overinflating. I shouldn't say overinflating. And obviously, people want to brag on themselves, and they should.
Yeah.
But there's a line.
Right.
There's a line.
Well, and yeah, I mean that even kind of, I guess, going back to college and um I don't know, I guess maybe this is also tying back into like interviews and stuff, but uh yeah, to that point, I mean, I guess I never had the motivation or like the understanding of lying. Like I'm going to be honest because exactly, because as soon as you are not, I mean, then either you're just going to continually have to dance around the fact that you don't know something you said you do know, or it's just gonna, yeah, very quickly become obvious that you don't know what you said you do know, and so just like, I don't know. Either way, it's going to be super stressful. Either one's going to continue to be stressful, or the other will just be like, oh nope, you're done and you're out. So like, and that's not good. So it's just, yeah, I don't know. It's just better to be honest up front.
Yep.
You know, whether that's cheating on a test or exaggerating your resume or whatever. It's just, I don't know. It's just a no-win situation there.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a meme for this, but three the three most underutilized words in an engineering team is "I don't know,"
Right.
or "I need help."
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
the point is, like, "I don't know" is perfectly fine. I say it. I don't know how many times a day. Like, I
Right.
don't know, but I'll find out, right?
Right.
Like, and that's all we're doing.
And that's, yeah,
Um,
that's like, that's always like, that's the high level one. Or I was going to say, just thinking about, we messed up, you know, just owning the fact that, but we're going to take care of it. You know, we're going to fix it. We'll figure it out, you know? Um, but yeah, same idea.
no, it is. I mean, honestly, admitting faults. I mean, the thing I think people, especially in engineering teams, what I've noticed, people think everybody has a long memory. No,
Nope.
nope. I mean, like, yes, bad thing happened. Okay, we're all stuck on a call. We're talking about bad thing, and our leadership is on there, and they're not happy about the bad thing. None of us are happy about the bad thing. Like, nobody is there trying to like say that the bad thing that happened is actually less bad. Like, everybody's in under the same, you know, everybody's in agreement. But basically, just being able to say, like you said, we messed up, comma, here's what we're doing, here's what we're putting in place to resolve and remediate and prevent. Um, Honestly, if you have a plan, generally things land a lot softer. It's when you go into the thing and you can tell when people are dancing around the root cause, right? Like,
Right.
oh, well, it's not our fault. It's
Yeah.
actually this thing over here. You know, solar flare hit and the bit flipped, and
We had no idea. We had no
oh,
idea that this change happened. Nobody told
oh,
us about that.
we didn't know. Like, it's very obvious, right? I mean, that's the fun part about a root cause, like an RCA meeting, is that saying we didn't know is only highlighting a fact that everybody already knows going in. Because if you did know, that means you did it on purpose, and that's way worse, right? So
Right.
clearly you
Yeah.
didn't know.
So you were ignoring it.
So
So
now
that's,
we're trying to
yeah.
figure out why you didn't know, and how do we prevent that from happening again in the future? Like, and honestly, like I kind of want to laugh sometimes about it, just because like I remember being there and being the one that's like literally stressed out of my mind, thinking like, well, this is the day, you know, production was down for 4 minutes, like this is the day,
Right.
um, and most of the time, as long as it's not this constantly repeating cycle, right? It's just like computers are computers. You know, Control Alt Delete was invented for a reason, right?
Right.
Sometimes stuff just gets weird. Um,
Yeah. That it's going to do exactly what you tell it to do, whether that's
yeah,
what you what you meant to or not. That's what it's going to do.
it's gonna do whatever it's told. Maybe not what you told it to do, but whatever it was told. Maybe your script died halfway through.
Fair
Maybe
enough.
you know
Fair
what I
enough.
mean, like
Yeah.
whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Um, the data was the data was bad, right? Just thinking through some of our dealings over the years, like, but saying we didn't know, I think is it doesn't do you any good, right?
For
Like,
sure.
and I mean, you can say things. You can. There's another way to say that. It's like we missed that.
Right. And it's
Oh,
another one of those like,
yeah,
yeah, and how you, and as long as there's the follow up, and rather than using it as an excuse, it's more just the preface. It's like, yes, we missed that, and we're looking into it. We're doing this. We're whatever though. So
yeah.
yeah, just the ownership. But I don't know. Ownership seems to be scary sometimes. I guess
It is.
nobody wants to own the problem.
Comes with it
So
though. but it comes with it. I mean, like maybe not as an entry level person like that in your first role, right? No one's expecting an entry level associate to to own the process end to end.
Fair enough.
But generally, it doesn't happen.
Right.
Um, but as you move up, right, like and you take on more of the responsibility, what comes with that? The stress of that responsibility, right? If you
Yep.
own a product and say that product is public facing, if it goes down, I mean, yeah, that's on you in some way, shape, or form. Like maybe you didn't do it, but it's still on you. Like,
Yeah, if you're owning it, you got to get it back up. So
yeah, the service is down for whatever the reason might be. Um, I'm trying to think of who the provider was that wiped out the internet there for a little while. Or was it cell service? Whatever it was. But like yeah, networks go down.
oh yeah, was it T-Mobile or something that was down for a little while?
It might have been there. There was one I think that was like DNS related from like maybe a couple of years ago where there was like a huge DNS outage and it took down a ton of services on
Oh
the
man.
East Coast, right? And so
Okay.
yeah, that's not great.
Yeah, not good.
Um, do your customers care? No, they're just mad because the thing they're paying for is not working.
The internet does not
Um,
work. This is a problem
yes, so being able to deal with that and all that, and all just comes with time and experience, of course.
for sure. Um,
Yeah.
well, in one thing I've been hearing quite a bit lately is the topic of open source and contributing to open source projects. So, which is probably a nice way to kind of get some experience, at least with a larger library
Mhm.
or a larger project, because some of those open source projects are pretty huge, and that would be, I guess, from having no experience to trying to work in a large uh, development project, that probably would be a pretty good place to start as far as just like I need to make a change to this giant database, like how or a giant code repository, like how do I do that? So
Yeah,
submit your PR and it gets reviewed by a giant team, and then they evaluate the change, and then goes through the PR process and all that. So
and they're going to be freaking brutal. Um, yeah, so I think the key there is just don't let a Linux patch be your first your first change to an open source. Honestly, I think the prevalence of all of this now, with all of like everybody builds all their stuff, puts it on GitHub.
mhm,
Right, that was not the case obviously when I was in college, at least.
sure,
Um, now it could just simply be like, oh, you want to learn how like an enterprise grade web server works? Download one. Like
right,
pick whatever language you want. There's going to be a web server in that language.
yeah,
Um, Download it. Look through the source code. At every logging line and debug statement that you want to do, like you could trace a request from handle to response, right?
yeah,
Um, and not saying you're going to be an expert by the end of that, but like make a change to it, right? Um, add in a patch so that it always serves a funny image and create a website, like prank your buddies. Like,
that's true.
people used to do those router patches back in the back in the day. People would put these router patches in where it would essentially every image that the router would serve would all be the same image, right?
Okay,
People come over and like install it on your router, and it's always like a big joke.
nice. Okay,
But things like that, right? Like weasel your way into a project,
for sure.
um, or just use it as a learning opportunity, or use any of these like interactive uh, learning platforms that are out there now. Like Code Crafters is one that I saw and kind of mentioned it to the team last week. Pretty neat. Like it's a step by step thing. But it's like practical. It's like how to build your own, or yeah, build your own Git, build your own Redis, build your own web server, build your
Wow.
own.
Okay.
I feel like there was another one in there, maybe like Postgres or something.
Okay.
But the idea is like it's multiple steps. You pick your language, and you're doing everything, and it uses Git as a way to run the automation. So
Okay.
it's like you run a commit, you push it up to the up to the remote, and then it runs the automation on their servers to grade basically did you do the thing.
Okay.
Uh,
Nice.
yeah, but like there's so many of those types of things available now that doesn't even have to be a figure it out yourself type thing.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I'm sure, yeah, definitely more, or that's, probably a much more solid way to go as far as doing something more interactive like that. But I mean, yeah, to your point as well, as far as it doesn't have to be by yourself. I think there's also tons of communities now. I mean, if you know, I don't know, I'm sure there's all kinds as far as like Discord groups and Twitter or whatever X. Um, I'm sure there's all kinds of like groups you could join to start learning and
Oh yeah.
tagging along.
I mean, even like figure out a repo that you want, or figure out a project you want to contribute to. You'll find an issue, right? Go to the issues tab on that repo, pick
True.
one.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, just go
See what you can do.
see what you can
Right?
find. Yeah.
Maybe don't patch the Bluetooth driver in Linux as your first one, but like go fix a random doc bug or some random arithmetic overflow type situation. Something that it's big enough that you got to get in there and figure it out.
Right.
But you're not boiling the ocean either.
Yeah, right.
The nice part is like then you're learning not just how that code base works or how to write code and things, but you're also learning about like the contribution part, right?
Exactly.
Most of the big repos have a contributing file. They have a set of rules. And so, you're having to abide by that, which now you're kind of just getting like this, I don't know. I mean, you're basically on an engineering team, right? Very
like a free contractor.
Yeah, like a free contract. But like, there's so much experience to be gained from doing something as small as committing a single PR to an open source repository. It'd be cool to see the statistics of how many software engineers there are globally, and how many actually contribute to open source projects. I bet the number is tiny.
Very tiny. Yeah, I am definitely one of those that like very, very guilty of never really contributed to anything open source. So that's something
it's super fun.
It would be cool. Yeah, it's just crazy that it's a thing. So yeah.
Except what's funny is you go find an issue and you fix the issue, and yet you're the person that fixed it, and yet somebody else is going to have a problem with the way that you fixed it.
Yeah, guaranteed.
That's how I would have done it.
Yeah, there's always a better way to do it. Yeah. It's funny because actually, so I was looking at like newsletter software, and there's one called Ghost.org, and so I was looking at their pricing and stuff, and it's very similar to like I've been using Beehive. There's a few others you can use that are pretty popular. It's like Medium and Substack and Beehive and all those. What's the other one? ConvertKit is a big one right now. But Ghost.org, you can pay monthly to use it, but then they're like, that it's like buried in their like FAQ at the bottom. They're like, oh, this is actually it's an open source project. So like, if you just want to run it yourself, you can. And it's like, oh, cool. So you can just like go to the repo and you have all the source code. So I was like, well, okay, well that's kind of fun. So I was actually going to dig into that a little bit and see about like how they actually operate their app, because I think that'd be kind of cool. But again, just like crazy to think that's like, oh yeah, like that's like a enterprise level project that people are paying to use monthly, but you can just go download it and run it yourself. See all the source code right there, and maybe find an issue or something and fix it and figure out how it works.
Yeah, I mean it's funny. It's funny. So I Google percentage of developers who contribute to open source.
Yeah.
The sort of curated answer said around 50%.
Okay.
I was not expecting that, to be perfectly honest. A couple of these other ones talk about how a lot of people use open source. Yeah, I'll have to do some digging. This is now I'm super curious.
Yeah, for sure.
And I actively contributing is probably obviously a much different metric than has ever contributed. But you know what I mean, though, right? Like, how many people are actually contributing to projects maybe that aren't their own like personal repos?
There we go. Yeah. I was just looking. So according to Perplexity, it says 22%. Okay. Oh, it's just breaking it down to, never mind. These are 22% contribute just for fun. 84% of developers using open source in their professional work consider themselves to be active open source contributors. Well, I mean, if you work on an open source project professionally, I would assume as much.
Yeah. That's where I'm kind of like, I want to dig into the stats a little bit more. Like simply creating a fork of something. I don't think that's truly being an open source contributor. It's like, yeah, we forked it and then we changed a bunch of stuff in our fork, never pushed it back upstream.
Right. We use it.
Right. No, I mean, like I
Yeah,
said, I mean that's you know, I mean, you mentioned it earlier. There's so many resources available now, right?
yeah,
You want to be a developer? Geez, you just Google, what do I need to do to be a developer, right? All of the most companies put all of their uh, requirements and things like expectations. You can always find that as well. There's
that's
YouTube
true.
videos, I'm pretty sure, on like how to master the Google interview or whatever.
That's a good point.
Um,
Yeah, there's all kinds of videos now on YouTube that are like, we'll tell you almost exactly like what you need to expect. So yeah,
yeah. But with those things, I mean, to this day, though, I still think that you might be able to get through the interview, but if you don't have that like base skill set, if you really haven't mastered that mindset, you're not going to last very long. Um,
right.
right? Like,
Yeah, you can fake your way in there, but yeah, only for so long until you hit uh,
yeah,
a true test, and then or whatever 3 months in, and you're not able to deliver what you said you could deliver. Yeah, people are going to notice.
which is, I'll be honest. I mean, today in these days, it's kind of sad if that's what happens. Because I mean, end of the day, this is going to sound weird, but man, you can just stack overflow, copy, paste most solutions. Like just stitch them together.
It's true.
Uh,
Yeah. Well, especially now with like AI and stuff. I mean,
you can scaffold the whole project.
you really can because I mean, you don't have to really go through and read it anymore. You can just like, dump it in and ask what does this do, and then it's like, oh yeah, you just it does this. Like, okay, I want to change that. Like, okay, cool. Like, you just change it right here. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for one of those, for one of our quarterly planning sessions, I don't know if you remember this, but I did a whole, for our engineering section, I did that whole thing on dependency injection, right?
Yeah.
And wanted to demonstrate what is dependency injection, right, for the platform. And I was like, I could just type out an example, and that might be kind of fun. But this is kind of when GPT came out,
Right.
and so it was like, I'm just going to have it do it, right? So we literally went and just typed in generate a dependency injection, um, you know, compatible client in order to call this API, blah blah blah. I mean, other than the weird spelling error it had in one of the classes, it was dead on.
Dead on. Yeah. It's
Um,
it's crazy.
I mean, it was amazing. So I mean, yeah, you could scaffold, and I'll do it. I'll go and say something like, generate a basic Go client for calling this API,
Okay.
and as long as it's not some obscure API, it does a pretty good job. You know, saves me quite a few minutes in just scaffolding code.
Yeah. No, for
Um,
sure. I just did it the other day where I've been banging out a bunch of websites this week or this month, and some of them I was moving over to just like a Google App Engine, and I wanted to have because I wanted to just have like a Go server backend,
yeah,
and then then like I would have it just like, all right, just give me some boilerplate, Go server, and it's like sure, and then it like lists it all out, and it's like this is my file structure, like can you change it so that like I want this is my static folder, and it's like yeah sure, and it's like gave me a function to be able to host all the static elements in like separate folders and stuff. It's like all right, cool, perfect. Just like copy paste and it's good to go. So it's crazy.
um, it is. It's amazing how much you can get done with just a couple sentences these days.
Yeah.
Um,
So
but
that's
it still doesn't detract away from everything we've been talking about. Like if you don't have that, if you don't have that base skill set, I mean, you can only get so far with
right.
it, right?
Yeah.
And you see it all the time. Like you can fake your way, you can fake your way pretty high up. But there is a line where you just can't BS yourself past that
Right.
point.
Yeah, you can only fake it so far. And when you run out of sources or you get to some situation where there's I guess it's truly novel, like there's nothing to copy paste anymore, like you're the one that has to come up with it, then it's like, okay, well now it's up to you. So
Yep.
yeah, the test of true colors. Um
Yeah, it's so sad. I mean, it is. It is heart. It's heartbreaking when you see that type of thing happen because it's like, I mean, you always want everybody on your team to succeed no matter what, right?
oh yeah, for sure. Right.
Um,
Yeah.
such a bummer.
Yeah, yeah, that is tough. When it's you know, is it time to transition to something else? Maybe it's not the right fit or whatever. So yeah,
Also happens though. I
yeah,
mean, and
it
hey,
does.
to go full circle on this whole thing. I mean, we talked about like know what you want to do, but like know what you don't want to do too.
Right?
Um,
Yeah, that might be an easier place to start. It's like,
it usually is,
yeah,
right? Like I always joke with you guys about like I will never build in Java, right? I
sure,
mean, like most of that's tongue in cheek. You guys know that. But there are some people who just, flat out, there are things they don't want to do. Or just being very honest with themselves, there's things they can't do. Also,
Right.
very, very important, right?
Yeah.
Not to say
Yeah.
don't challenge yourself, but don't say you can do something just because you watched a YouTube video one time and it worked out at the end.
For sure. And yeah, I mean, there's definitely like there's something to be said for being optimistic and being or whatever believing in yourself and being confident. But yeah, to a point though, sometimes you also have to be realistic about what you truly are capable of. So it's a good point. That's a very good point.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. It's a good topic. I loved. There's probably. I mean, we could probably go into. I don't even know how many things, just as like offshoots of this.
Right. Yeah, it already was kind of swirling around. So there's a lot there.
Yeah.
So then I guess I kind of go back to where we started a little bit. To go in the other direction though, with some AI, getting better and better. Do you think there will be much more programming in the future?
Man, I don't know. I'm trying to stay optimistic on it. To be honest with you, like, I mean, yes. I'm just gonna say yes, right? I hope so. Um, it's going to take a while for it to get to a point where everybody's going to like fully trust it,
Right.
right? So there is still that, but I mean, it is improving. It's improving so fast.
It's it's crazy. Well, I mean, mostly because I think one of the big headlines was I think the CEO of Nvidia. He's one of the guys who's like, a couple of years and you'll be programming by just natural language. You'll just be like telling it what to do and it'll just do it. There's no reason to like code anymore. I mean, and I don't know, but that's kind of I could kind of see it going that way as far as I mean, not right away, but maybe 4 or 5 years, and there really won't be a need because it's the AI can program better than you could ever hope to. But I don't know. At the same time, like the way things are going right now, like I don't know. I mean, I guess larger context as well. When it can see the whole project, it can understand everything. I mean, when it has more understanding than an entire team, then it's like, yeah, at that point it probably can. Like you tell it you need a feature. It's like, cool. Here's a couple different ways we can do that feature. Which one do you want? And then it's done.
Yeah.
And so,
True.
The other, yeah,
that to me is, I think, generating code, yes, fine. Holistically looking at like an entire landscape and figuring out how something fits into it,
yeah,
that's a whole different ballgame, right? Like if this thing truly understands the entire context of your infrastructure,
right,
and you say like, "Hey, we need to add whatever it is," and it just goes, "Yeah, you'll get this, and it'll go here, and it'll talk to this, and you'll have to generate these certs because of this." Like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
it basically builds an entire run list out for you. Bill of materials, the whole thing. It's like that's
and that's where yeah, exactly. Because I mean, when you basically have like enterprise context, it can just everything. It's got it all. Like it knows it all. It can index it all and just be like, yeah, no, I know where that's at. And if we change that, that'll change this. We just need to update that. Like, yeah, that would be pretty cool. I was gonna say the other thing that I just keep coming back to is like the recursive, like the power of like the recursive nature of it, where you have it take its own input and then improve on its own input, and it's crazy. Like I've actually just been doing it more with Midjourney and stuff, where it's like, okay, describe this image to me. It's like, okay, cool, and then it gives you like 4 prompts, and it's like, okay, cool, generate those, and then it creates those. Then it's like, yep, that's pretty close to what I was looking at. It's like, all right, cool, let's refine that one. And it's just like it's just crazy. It's like something that I could not draw. It's just like, well, I'll just look at what someone else has drawn and then ask it, how did they do that? And then, okay, cool, that's how I did it. Like, cool, can I change it to these colors? Like, yeah, cool. Like, can we tighten that up? Like, yeah, then you're good. It's like this. It's crazy. Same thing with code. That's like the whole Devon project and all that, where you have it like spit out the code, then like then ask it to review it, and it's like, oh yeah, I guess I messed up there. And then like, okay, cool, why don't you fix that? Like, all right, cool. Like, why don't you try that? All right, yep, let's try it. And like just having it work on itself, it's craziness.
Yeah, I mean, you can either be like totally terrified of it, like a lot of people are, I think.
Yeah.
Or just embrace that it is kind of the next iteration of tools.
For sure.
Well,
and I think it kind of it's kind of like what you've been talking about pretty much the whole time, is like as far as like the engineering mentality. I guess that's something I've kind of been thinking about as well. That it's like, well, at least like as a programmer, you've learned how to think a certain way. So
Sure.
then you could just take that way of thinking and like the, I guess, like lack of fear of complex ideas and just go apply it to something else. It's like maybe it's not
Sure.
programming anymore, but you take that principle and go apply it to somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean the analytical mind is definitely not in short demand, right? Like there
Right.
are tons of fields that require that exact thing. The prospect of having to start over in a new field, eh, I'm just going to choose not to think about that. Um,
Right. Yeah.
but no, I think we're a little ways off just from like truly replacing.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I mean adapting and being able to take advantage of the tooling, that's top of mind for this entire year actually. Um,
Okay.
one of the goals.
Nice.
Incorporate that tooling into my day to day, which I started doing it a little bit. Like I said, I mean, just even scaffolding projects
Sure.
saves me some time, but trying to use it for more contextual things,
Got it. Yep.
not just relying on my own Google skills.
Right. Yeah. Which are still useful, but when it comes to yeah, more specific proprietary information, then yeah, then it can be a little more helpful there.
The refinement aspect, I think, is interesting too. I mean, just looking at it from just the pure application of simple things that it can already do: summarize articles, summarize large swaths of text. Hugely beneficial in our field, right? So
For sure.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's exciting. But no, I like to think that there will always be a need for us computer nerds.
Yeah. I think for a little while. Not
Yeah.
till I don't know. Yeah, whatever. 2030, I think is the that's when we'll hit the singularity, the proposed singularity. That
Nice.
then what's up?
No, nice. I mean, good.
Yeah, got
We
a
got to
good
give 6 years.
6 or so years, and then we should be
I love
fine.
it. I love it.
I mean, at that point, I think money won't really matter. So it's like you just do whatever you want at that point. So it'll be fine. So
Yeah.
we'll be good.
Matrix, it is. It's fine.
Absolutely. There we go.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's a good hour plus on
Oh my goodness.
getting started in dev, and then all the aspects of working in dev, I guess, from top to bottom. So covered a lot.
We did cover quite a bit. I already know there's going to be like 10 things I think about as soon as we close out. So we'll have to do a follow up on this one. Plus, it'd be interesting to get Will's perspective as well because he's had a bit of a unique journey. So
Yeah, for sure. No, he's definitely more. Yeah, he kind of went straight to enterprise. And I think you and I both were a little bit smaller, and then worked our way up. So yeah, he's definitely had a different path than we have. So yeah, I
yeah,
would be curious to get his take.
for sure.
Awesome. Well, we'll have to do that next time.
Yep.
Awesome.
Um,
Any hot takes or closing thoughts you want to send us out on?
Boilers for the win. There's my hot take.
Boilers for the win.
Boilers
There we
for
go.
the win.
Taking the whole thing.
Boy, that would just make my day.
That would be great. There's always the Boilers bracket. It's like just in case, gonna fill one out just in case. But
Just in case. Now, hoping for the best.
all right, yeah, staying positive.
Staying
Uh,
positive. How about you, man?
oh man, yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I wasn't super prepared for that one either. I've already done we still got like 6 years left of programming, so we're good there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll stick with that for now. But it'll probably happen faster than that. Actually, is probably what I'll go with. So we'll see.
Well, let's hope not.
Hopefully not, but the way things are looking, man, exponential
I
growth.
know.
It's crazy. All right. Well, awesome.
Yeah.
We'll call it on that one.
Sounds good to me.
All right, awesome, man.
All right, dude.
We'll see you in the next one. Thanks.